Cartoon Network is one of those channels that shaped childhoods across the world. Dexter, Powerpuff Girls, Ed, and Eddie, all the shows that basically raised a generation. But when it launched, almost nobody in the TV industry believed it would last. Cartoon Network started as a risky idea, with serious challenges, and for a while, it wasn't clear if it would survive at all. Here's how it almost didn't, and how it eventually became a global animation powerhouse. To understand why Cartoon Network struggled at the start, you kind of have to look at what TV was like in the early 90s. While cable was growing, most channels were very specific with what they aired. News, sports, kids, or music and animation. Networks treated this as cheap programming to fill weekend mornings. When Ted Turner announced a dedicated 24-hour cartoon channel, people genuinely thought it was a joke. Some executives even called it a library channel, basically a place to dump old cartoons nobody even wanted. And that wasn't completely wrong at the time, because when Cartoon Network launched in 1992, it had no original shows, no huge stars or major advertisers, and very little cable distribution. Most of its schedule was built from Turner's newly purchased Hanna-Barbera archive, which included thousands of old cartoons, some beloved but most forgotten. Kids tuned in out of curiosity, but the channel didn't have its own voice yet, so it needed something more to stand out. Luckily, Ted Turner himself was already used to taking big swings, because he had already built CNN, TBS, TNT, and he believed strongly in two things: owning your own content and reusing your library as much as possible. So when Turner bought the entire Hanna-Barbera studio in 1991, it instantly gave him one of the biggest animation collections in the world. And his logic was simple: if we own the cartoons, why not make a channel that plays them all day? But the challenge was that these older cartoons, while classics, couldn't serve as the foundation forever. Cartoon Network needed new animation, but producing it was expensive, and Cartoon Network didn't have the kind of budgets Nickelodeon or Disney had at that time. So they decided to create original shows in a completely new and different way. Enter Fred Seibert. Hired as Hanna-Barbera's new president, he introduced an idea inspired by old MGM and Warner Bros. In short, make lots of animated pilots, let creators experiment, and then see which ones connect with the viewers. This became What a Cartoon, and it started in 1995. The program gave complete creative freedom to animators, something no other major network was doing. It wasn't about formulas or comedies, it was about letting weird, original ideas live or die on their own. And it certainly worked, because from this experiment came the first wave of Cartoon Network's originals. Dexter's Laboratory by Jenny Tartakovsky, The Powerpuff Girls by Craig McCracken, Johnny Bravo by Van Pardival, Cow and Chicken by David Fess, and Courage the Cowardly Dog by John Ardell. These shows didn't just fill airtime, they created Cartoon Network's entire identity. And this was very crucial because behind the scenes, the network was entering a very difficult period. But even with these fresh ideas, Cartoon Network wasn't stable yet. The Turner Time Warner merger in 1996 created a lot of confusion, because suddenly Cartoon Network had to compete with bigger departments for money and resources, including Warner Bros. Animation. There were concerns that Cartoon Network might lose funding for original shows or be forced to rely on older reruns again, or even be absorbed into another division. Some early originals underperformed significantly, and people questioned whether Cartoon Network should stick to experimental animation or just play it safe. There were real talks inside the company about cutting back, but at the same time, something new was forming, and something that would bring in a whole new audience and help rescue the network. Toonami launched in 1997, and it immediately became one of the most important programming blocks in Cartoon Network history. At the time, anime was still niche in America, and it aired in small blocks, usually on weekends, and was often heavily edited. But Cartoon Network took a chance and built a full weekday afternoon action block around it. What made Toonami special wasn't just the shows, it was the presentation. The futuristic space station setting, Tom the robotic host, electronic atmospheric music, or even a tone that treated kids with maturity and respect. This wasn't typical kids' TV, it almost felt cinematic, and the lineup hit so hard. Dragon Ball Z, Gundam Wing, Sailor Moon, Tenchi Muyo, Outlaw Star. Toonami attracted older kids, teens, and anime fans, audiences Cartoon Network had never reached before. And it proved that the network could be both fun and serious. It played a huge role in stabilizing the network as it approached its prime era. By the late 90s to early 2000s, Cartoon Network hit its golden age. The channel expanded worldwide, Cartoon Network Studios was created, and original programs were getting bigger budgets and more freedom. This era brought some of Cartoon Network's most iconic series: Samurai Jack, Ed, and Eddie, Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, and even Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. Ratings climbed, merch exploded, and Cartoon Network officially became a major player in animation. Right alongside Nickelodeon and Disney, what started as an unnecessary cartoon rerun channel had become a cultural giant. And looking back, Cartoon Network succeeded because it embraced ideas other networks were scared and avoided. It created freedom over formulas, supported unknown animators, and even bringing anime into mainstream TV. They took risks with very unique styles and tones and built a brand that respected its audience. Cartoon Network didn't just air cartoons, it championed creativity. And that gave it a legacy that still resonates today. And that's how Cartoon Network went from a shaky experiment to one of the most influential animation networks ever made. If you'd like a deep dive into the golden age of Cartoon Network, please let me know in the comments and tell me what was your go to Cartoon Network show growing up.